Ever feel like you're being pulled in two totally different directions? Like stuck in a moral tug of war? That's exactly what we're diving into today with the Bhagavad Gita. Specifically, Chapter 2. This ancient Indian text is full of wisdom that's still surprisingly relevant to our lives, thousands of years later. And don't worry, you don't need to be a scholar to get it. We're going to break it down.
Yeah, we're going to extract that timeless advice that you can actually use.
Exactly. And today, we're focusing on Chapter 2, where things get really interesting. We're talking a classic battle scene. Chariots, warriors, the fate of a kingdom hang in the balance.
Right, but what makes the Bhagavad Gita unique is that it uses this dramatic backdrop to explore the inner battles we all face.
And to help us understand this epic confrontation is our expert who can unpack the complexities and bring that wisdom to life. So let's set the scene. We're dropped right into the middle of this massive battle. Our main man, Arjuna, is having a major crisis.
He is.
He's the greatest warrior of his time, ready to lead his side to victory, but there's a catch.
And it's a big one.
Huge. His entire family is on the other side of the battlefield. We're talking cousins, teachers, even his great-grandfather.
Talk about an awkward family reunion.
Right. No wonder he's completely overwhelmed.
Yeah, Arjuna's facing this impossible choice. Betray his family or betray his duty.
And in this moment of intense pressure, we see the human side of this legendary warrior. He's not some stoic statue.
He's deeply affected by the weight of his responsibility, the potential consequences of his actions.
And that's something I think a lot of us can relate to, that universal feeling of being torn between what we should do and what we want to do. And this is where the Bhagavad Gita goes beyond a simple war story. This is where it starts to speak to the challenges that we face in our own lives.
Absolutely.
What I find so fascinating is that the Gita doesn't shy away from these complex emotions.
No.
It acknowledges them, explores them, and ultimately offers a way through them. And thankfully, Arjuna has Krishna as his charioteer, who also happens to be a divine incarnation. Talk about having a wise friend in your corner.
Right. And Krishna recognizes that Arjuna's crisis, it goes beyond this particular battle. It's a microcosm of this universal struggle between duty and desire, fear and responsibility.
He's so focused on the individuals involved that he's missing the bigger picture. Like he's staring at the individual trees and missing the entire forest.
Exactly.
And this is a key takeaway for us too, right? When we're caught up in the heat of the moment, it's easy to lose sight of the larger context, the principles, the values that should be guiding our choices.
That's right.
Okay, so we've got Arjuna freaking out in his chariot, right? Facing this impossible decision.
Yeah.
And this is where Krishna drops some serious wisdom.
He does.
This is where he's going to blow Arjuna's mind. And maybe ours too.
Possibly.
He starts by explaining that Arjuna is making a fundamental mistake.
Okay.
He's identifying too closely with his temporary physical body.
Right.
And forgetting about the eternal, unchanging soul within. It's like that scene in The Matrix,
Oh, yeah.
where Morpheus offers Neo the red pill.
Yes.
Krishna is basically giving Arjuna the ancient Indian equivalent of that.
I like it.
But just like Neo, Arjuna needs some convincing.
Of course. Of course.
It's one thing to talk about an internal soul. It's another to actually grasp what that means.
Right. Exactly. But the way the Gita explains it, it's incredibly beautiful and insightful.
It is.
Instead of getting bogged down in philosophical jargon, it uses these really vivid metaphors to make the abstract concrete.
Yeah, and it's so true.
For example, Krishna compares the soul to a flame that can never be extinguished by the wind, no matter how fiercely it blows.
Yeah, right.
Or he describes it as this vast ocean, remaining constant, undisturbed, even as waves rise and fall on its surface.
These images make you really stop and think, don't they?
They do. It's like he's saying that our bodies are like those waves, temporary, always changing. But the essence of who we are, the soul, it's like the ocean itself. Vast, unchanging, eternal.
And this is where it gets really practical. This isn't just some abstract philosophical concept. This understanding of the soul's immortality. It has real implications for how we handle challenges in our lives.
It does.
Because if we identify solely with our physical selves, with our ego, then every setback, every failure, it can feel like the end of the world. It's like being a ship on that stormy sea, terrified of being dashed against the rocks.
Right.
But if we remember that we are something more, something eternal, then those challenges, they take on a different dimension. We become like the ocean itself, able to weather any storm because our true nature is vast and unshakable.
It's powerful.
That's a powerful way to reframe things. So it's not about denying our emotions or pretending that difficulties don't matter. It's about shifting our perspective so we're not completely ruled by them.
Okay.
And this shift in perspective is crucial for understanding the next key concept,
Which is?
karma yoga.
Okay.
Okay, I've heard the term karma before.
Sure.
But what exactly is karma yoga? Is this where we get into the physical poses?
Not quite. Remember, yoga essentially means union or connection.
Okay.
In this case, karma yoga is about aligning our actions with a higher purpose, acting in accordance with our true nature or dharma, without being attached to the outcome.
So it's not about sitting on a mountaintop meditating 24/7.
No.
We can be in the thick of life,
Yeah.
dealing with deadlines, relationships, all the messy stuff.
Yeah.
And still be practicing this karma yoga.
Absolutely. In fact, that's where it's most relevant.
Interesting.
Krishna tells Arjuna that even though his duty as a warrior means engaging in battle, he can do so without being bound by the results.
Wait, so he's saying to fight this massive battle with all its potential consequences and just not care. That seems a bit cold.
It's not about not caring. It's about acting without attachment to the results.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we can only control our actions, not the outcome of those actions.
That's a tough one.
Imagine working on a project, pouring your heart and soul into it, but being 100% okay with whatever the result may be.
Wow.
That's the ideal.
Yeah.
You're fully engaged, but you're not letting the potential for success or failure dictate your worth or your peace of mind.
Okay, that sounds amazing in theory, but easier said than done right.
Right.
I can barely handle it when my toast burns, let alone, the fate of nations.
You're telling me. It definitely takes practice. And that's where the Gita gets even more practical, offering us tools and techniques for cultivating this detachment.
Okay.
One key aspect is mastering what's often called the monkey mind.
Monkey mind. Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Okay.
My thoughts can be a chaotic jungle sometimes.
Yeah.
So we've got this monkey mind situation happening, thoughts bouncing around like ping pong balls in a lottery machine.
It's a common experience. And the Gita, it doesn't tell us to suppress those thoughts or become, emotionless robots.
Right.
It's about finding that inner peace where we're not constantly at the mercy of every passing whim, every impulse.
So it's less about silencing the monkeys and more about training them to do like synchronized swimming.
I like that analogy. Krishna uses this image of a tortoise retracting its limbs into its shell. Okay.
When we're bombarded with sensory stimuli, sights, sounds, smells, it's easy to get swept away. But the tortoise, by drawing inward, finds its center.
Okay, I can see that. It's like scrolling through social media. Suddenly an hour is gone, you've accomplished nothing, and you just feel worse.
Exactly. The Gita warns about this unchecked sensory indulgence. It can spiral out of control, starting with a seemingly harmless thought and escalating to a point where it consumes our inner peace, our equilibrium.
Sounds like we need to find the off switch. Do we need to move to a cave and wear noise-canceling headphones?
It's not about isolation. It's about engaging with the world consciously. And the Gita's roadmap to mental discipline, it starts with practices like mindfulness.
Okay.
By focusing on the present moment, observing our reactions to those external stimuli, we gradually become less reactive and more discerning. So it's about training our attention like a muscle. We become the charioteer of our senses, not the other way around.
That's it. And the more we practice this, the more we experience the peace and the clarity that comes from not being ruled by those monkey mind thoughts.
All right. So to recap, we've explored the Bhagavad Gita's message that we're not just our physical selves, that there's this eternal, indestructible soul within each of us.
And recognizing this, it can be life-changing.
Yeah.
We can learn to act with purpose without being crippled by the attachment to outcomes. And by mastering our senses, we cultivate that inner peace, which helps us navigate life's challenges with wisdom and grace.
It's like we've uncovered this ancient toolkit for dealing with modern-day life. And it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress, one mindful step at a time.
Precisely. And thinking about this bigger picture, it raises an important question. If the world is a reflection of our collective minds, imagine the possibilities if we all cultivated a greater peace and equanimity within ourselves.
Now that's something to reflect on. Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive. It's been incredibly enlightening. And to our listeners, we hope this exploration of ancient wisdom sparks your own journey of self-discovery. Remember, even those small steps toward mastering your monkey mind can lead to profound transformations in how you experience the world around you.